Okay, it's October 3rd. President Trump tweeted that he tested positive for the China plague less than 48 hours ago. His condition has deteriorated in a very rapid pace, more than usual, in an unusually rapid pace. And he's in the hospital. He's been quiet. Details regarding his condition have been tightly guarded. And these things are all very concerning. It is October 3rd. And there are other people that have been around him that have also tested positive. And one common link of some of the people that have tested positive happen to be from this event that took place at the Rose Garden, in which he announces Amy Barrett to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg in the Supreme Court. So of the attendees, there were several senators there who also have tested positive, which from video footage I've seen, I can kind of see why they tested positive, and they probably spread it. Who knows? But then there's another, something I found interesting is another person that was at the event that tested positive was Father Jenkins, who is the president of Notre Dame, which is a university that Amy Barrett, the Supreme Court nominee, attended. And I'm going to show you what I found that I really caught my eye and I thought, well, see, no, that doesn't seem right. And I think there's other people who are not crazy, who are in the same train of thought. Here's a tweet from Lynn Wood. She happens to be somewhat involved with the Kyle Rittenhouse case, but her name is said by people like they know her, like she's somebody I should know or we should all know. It says, many leaders in administration are quarantined by what almost appears to almost be targeted strike of COVID. Bad actors seek to divide us. Don't let them succeed. United we stand. Another one from another attorney who's associated with the Kyle Rittenhouse case. What the fuck is, or WTF is going on? Who is playing dominoes with Republicans? Okay, so when I saw the priest from the, somehow this, I don't even know how I saw this article, but it says, Father Jenkins will quarantine after being seen at White House without mask. This article was published on Monday, September 28th. Okay, this is Donald Trump, President Trump did not. So this was before the debate and everything. So Notre Dame President Reverend John Jenkins is in quarantine after attending Sunday's United States Supreme Court nomination at the White House. Cameras showed him sitting in the crowd without a mask, then shaking hands following the ceremony. Jenkins said he was tested when he arrived at the White House and was told he was allowed to remove his mask after the rapid test came back negative. In the statement, Jenkins said he regrets his error in judgment. I failed to lead by example at a time when I've asked everyone else in order to do so. I regret in light of the sacrifice made on a daily basis in adjusting your... So basically saying he's sorry for, not following his own rules. Hang on. Okay, I didn't read this letter. It says, okay, so here he is on Monday saying, Dear students, faculty, and staff, I know many of you have read about the White House ceremony I recently attended. I write to express my regret for certain choices I made that day and for failing to lead us as I should have. Yesterday, I received, on very short notice, an invitation to attend the nomination of Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the United States Supreme Court. It was important. I believed that I represent the university at this historic event to support a faculty colleague and alumni of Notre Dame who is greatly respected by academic and judicial peers, revered by her students, and cherished by her friends. Even as a result of him writing this letter, the students made a petition calling for him to resign, and I just found it odd that he went this far. It's not even clear if anybody saw him without the mask prior to him issuing this statement. And so, anyways, in any case, Monday, prior to the debate, prior to anybody testing positive, prior to anything, all he did was go to the event. But that's not all he did, though. Actually, hang on a second. Okay, from the Washington Post. Notre Dame faculty who attended White House event await test results amid concern of campus of exposure. Okay, so The article states that around 18 faculty members who traveled to Washington for the September 26th event were tested with nasal swabs. This article is from today, by the way. Like Jenkins, several other attendees from Notre Dame at the White House ceremony did not wear masks. And here it says, University President Reverend John Jenkins, who attended the White House event, said earlier Friday that he had tested positive for the virus and was in quarantine. It was not immediately clear when Jenkins was infected. He said he was tested after a colleague with whom he had been in contact tested positive. Now, that's odd. Remember Monday he went into quarantine immediately after returning from the White House event. He took 18 people with him. And so when he tested positive on Friday, he linked it to somebody he had been in contact with who had tested positive. Now here's the article from the South Bend Tribune, which is the local publication where Notre Dame is. The Reverend John Jenkins, president of Notre Dame, tested positive for COVID-19. The university announced in an email to students and staff Friday. In the email, Notre Dame said Jenkins and a colleague with whom he has been in regular contact tested positive. My symptoms are mild. I will continue to work from home, Jenkins said. The positive test is a good reminder of me and perhaps for all of how vigilant we need to be. The announcement came hours after President Trump revealed that he and the First Lady both tested positive for the virus, and 5 days after he self-quarantined just for attending this White House event, which is not stated in the article. Oh, wait, here goes. He came under fire from students for not wearing a mask. But see, he later apologized? I think he apologized first. That apology was on like Monday early. Okay, and it goes again. Asked about other Notre Dame staffers who attended the White House event, university spokesman Dennis Brown said Friday that, excuse me, aside from Jenkins, we are not publicly identifying anyone, students, faculty, or staff, who has been tested or is in isolation or quarantine. He did confirm that law school dean Marcus Cole was also in attendance, but would not state if he has been tested. So the dean was also there. He was not tested. By the way, remember I showed you where I said that the other students or staff or whoever these people were, because they're not telling us, did not wear their staffs. However, hang on. This is the part I forgot to point out in the other article, in the Washington Times article. I'm sorry, I forgot. Let me try to rotate the phone so I can zoom in. Will it let me? Okay, this caught my eye again. So in that Washington Post article, which I think is from yesterday or today, McKenna is a staff member from the Washington Post, got comments from people who are staff members at Notre Dame, one who's named McKenna, and she was pissed about, him not wearing a mask and him being there, but she praised the law school's dean, G. Marcus Cole, for wearing a mask at the White House event and quarantining afterward. But he said the law school had not made clear what the quarantine protocol was for others who had attended. But here, so the president didn't wear a mask. The students didn't wear a mask, but it's interesting that Marcus Cole did wear a mask, the dean. Okay, and again, I just want to go back to this. When he returned Monday, what time is this at? I wish I could see a time. Is there a time on here? I wish there was. Oh, that's too bad. There's no timestamp. It just says Monday, September 28th. I don't see a time anywhere. Okay, so on Monday, he had already took it upon himself to quarantine. Okay, he basically apologized and confessed. It seems like he provided an entire apology, like he was in a confessional. And in the email to the students, Notre Dame said Jenkins and a colleague with whom he has been in regular contact tested positive. So they did not even link it to the White House ceremony, which is, to me, odd. And then they didn't give any further. That's all they said about the colleague, is that him and a colleague who tested positive, not who or anything about the colleague. And then when asked about the other 18 people, they said, we are not publicly identifying anyone, students, faculty, or staff, who has been tested or in isolation or quarantine. Only that the school dean, Marcus Cole, was in attendance, but like I pointed out before, he was apparently wearing a mask. Now, several other attendees of that ceremony that tested positive for the virus had key roles in seating Amy Barrett to replace RGB. And it was Senator Mike Lee, who's my favorite senator, and another senator, and then subsequently another senator, and I'm not sure if that senator was there at the event, but another Republican senator also has tested positive for the virus as of now. So, let's see. Okay, now obviously everybody's doesn't want her to be the Supreme Court nominee because she's a conservative woman, and conservative women are basically lambs to the slaughter. I don't even know why they're going to put her through this. They should have just voted on it already, but they were actually going to rush it through, and so now it's kind of all up in contention. The school Rhodes, they wrote a letter. It's got 1,500 alumni, students, fellow students. They are all basically saying that Judge Coney Barrett participates in this tradition of academic excellence, has statements, but her abortion views are a particular point of contention. Barrett voted, elite, blah, blah, blah. The Rose alumni letter was signed by students who graduated as far back as 1959. Some who knew Barrett and some who were in her graduating class expresses concerns that she might vote to overturn or seriously curtail Roe v. Wade. Accuses her of sidestepping questions about how she would rule if the abortion case were challenged before the Supreme Court. It claims she has deflected questions about her stance toward the LGBT community. And really, all we really need to know is how she perceives the Constitution and the law, not how she feels about these particular issues, unless they were to be framing the questions in the law, or as in the laws that or the rulings of the Supreme Courts that enacted or made it possible or legalized abortion and legalized gay marriage. So if that's the question they want to know, but then again, they shouldn't ask her that, because what if another case is presented to her? So I don't think it's appropriate for them to ask Supreme Court justices or even to inquire of their position on particular issues that have already been decided upon, and in the event that a future case were to reach the Supreme Court. Anyways, I guess a whole bunch of people wrote a letter. I mean, there's everybody in the whole world is against her being nominated, except for, Donald Trump supporters, which are the majority of the country. And but a Supreme Court justice being seated is a huge deal. It doesn't matter. It's a gigantic deal. And Trump's already had 2. And this one came at the very end. RGB couldn't make it till the end. Or maybe she was hoping, I don't know, maybe she was like, okay, I'll go now. Maybe I can get Joe Biden some extra votes. Maybe I can invigorate the base to go out and vote for him. That's what I was thinking happened. I was shocked to know that the president was ready to fill that seat, fill that seat, fill that seat, fill that seat. They've been chanting it all week. It's been crazy. There's also been other discoveries that have been taking place in the federal courts with something kind of investigation about General Flynn, and it just uncovered some criminal activity from all from the Obama administration officials, from Obama, the Hillary Clinton campaign, like incriminating evidence and statements and documents and just things that are illegal activity, like blatantly and clearly illegal, no question about it illegal, but it's just not a good time to address these issues. And so these issues are going, basically, it's buying time. And so, I mean, it goes all the way from all the way to the Department of Justice, through the FBI, the CIA, like the military, high-ranking officials. This is no joke. This is serious shit. It's no rabbit hole shit. I just don't know much about it to comment further on it. But the Joe Biden son with the money from Russia, I believe that was discovered in these documents, and it's way worse. There's more than just that, actually, about Hunter specifically. It's unbelievable. Like, this whole Russia thing was actually, I don't know. I think people who are really familiar with the matter are probably like sick to their stomach about it. And I feel like I should be also, and I actually am, because they're saying it's the worst thing that's ever happened in U.S. history to a sitting president, that Donald Trump is the president. He is the victim. And I'm like, our people, like conservatives and people that support Trump, they don't go around claiming anybody's a victim ever. Like, victim is the last thing they would ever want to call or proclaim to be or refer to Donald Trump as. But they do. They refer to him as a victim, a complete victim who's been completely... Anyways, and here's another thing I found regarding Notre Dame. Hang on one second here. Right here. So they have this little newspaper, The Observer. It's a student-run, daily print, online newspaper serving Notre Dame, St. Mary's, and Holy Cross. Team doctors link Irish outbreak to the weekend of USF game. This was written on September 30th. Following the news on Monday that 18 players tested positive for COVID-19, head coach Brian Kelly addressed the media on Tuesday, confirming that the outbreak was linked to a shared meal and a vomiting player during the weekend of the South Florida game, which was September 22nd. There were 7 positive tests. They had a September 26th matchup, which was postponed. The team announced an additional 18 positive tests and a total of 39 players in either quarantine or not. 39 players just recently from stemming from September 22nd are in quarantine or isolation. And they tracked the outbreak back to 2 events during the weekend of the Bulls matchup prior to the game. They had a meal together, which was the first for the team. And then one of the players threw up from the sidelines. So there was an outbreak through the football team on the 22nd. It was discovered, or several people had tested positive already by the 22nd. And so now it's up to, how many did it say? 39 players. Yeah, and this article was printed. This was published on the 30th. The event at the White House was on the 26th. Wow, look at this Sports Illustrated article I just found, and it was published on the 1st, before the president or Father Jenkins' diagnosis. It's a Sports Illustrated article. Notre Dame's leadership is failing its students. Notre Dame president Father John Jenkins and football coach Brian Kelly have not led by example on the coronavirus, and it could end up costing the Fighting Irish dearly. For Notre Dame fans waiting for decades for the school to get back to number 1, we have an exciting update. Go ahead and wake up the echoes, because the Fighting Irish finally made it this week. They are the national leader in COVID-19 angst. Saturday solidified the school's number 1 ranking. The undefeated football team did not play due to an outbreak that forced postponement of its game against Wake Forest. Meanwhile, school president Father John Jenkins went without a mask in a large crowd at the Supreme Court nominating ceremony at the White House for Notre Dame alumna and Professor Amy Coney Barrett. I think we may have gotten a little loose in some areas, football athletic trainer Rob Hutton said on a media call Thursday. I regret my error of judgment in not wearing a mask, Jenkins said in an email to students, faculty, and staff, an email that stopped short of an actual apology. On Friday, the school announced Jenkins' On Friday, well, October 1st, the school announced Jenkins tested positive for COVID-19 after he learned that a colleague with whom he had been in regular contact also tested positive. Regrets. Notre Dame has a few. How many ultimately we'll see. But video of head coach Brian Kelly's talk to the team after a fateful South Florida game on September 19th was telling. The mask will beat this, Kelly says. His own mask pulled down to his chin as he addressed the players. The mask will beat it. If we don't use our mask, we're going to get beat, and that's silly. We're too damn good. By the time Kelly spoke those words, the virus was already running through his team. 39 players went either into quarantine or isolation days after Notre Dame blasted the Bulls 52-0. Contact tracing caution then forced South Florida to postpone its own game last week. The Irish were fortunate to have an open date this Saturday, or else that game likely would have been called off as well. Wow, look at this. So the Observer, a student newspaper, somehow, I didn't read this article, was sharply critical of him in an editorial that ran under the headline, "Frankly, this is embarrassing." So what the article said in the Observer was, on the same day a football game was canceled because of COVID, he went to this event without a mask. And they're referring to the White House event, said Observer editor-in-chief Maria Leontaris. It was just a bit outrageous. And then I just looked into Reverend Jenkins, or Father Jenkins, way before I even discovered this about the football team. This is what I was finding, and I didn't even like it. But now I'm really like, wow, this thing with the football thing and the sketchy details about who went to the White House event, and him not even attributing him contracting COVID to the event. He's attributing it, and he tested positive after finding out that the president and other people that attended the event tested positive, and he's linking it to a colleague. Okay, so here's an article I found from this year. We have to pray, but we also must act. In response to the death of George Floyd at the hands of police officers, Notre Dame President Reverend John Jenkins joined other local clergy, elected officials, and community leaders interdenominational, blah, blah, blah. Among his remarks, the first thing I want to say to our black sisters and brothers is I'm sorry. That terrible video of George Floyd brought home to us who are white that what you have to live with every day of your lives. I'm sorry you have to hear this burden. You have to bear that burden. But the grace is that we're aware of it even more deeply now. We have to pray, but we also must act. I want to thank the mayor for his leadership in making policing in this community safer and respectful of all. We must continue those efforts not only in this community but throughout our nation. We can only do that if we come together, white, black, old, young, left, and right. We need to come together as a community for justice. There are elements in our society who want to divide us, who want to separate us into camps of people who want to hate each other. They are the enemy. I don't believe he's talking about Black Lives Matters at all. We must take steps to establish justice and do what is right to ensure that everyone, particularly our black sisters and brothers, are respected by the police force and by every one of us every day of our lives. I know we have a lot to learn. I know we have a long way to go, but let's make this time an opportunity to move forward together. Well, whatever. I just noticed that in his history that he has a tendency to take positions on things that a priest should really either stay away from or to not take the positions that he takes. Hold on. Father Jenkins, he was in the audience of the debate in 2016 in October. He's a member of the board of directors of the Commission on Presidential Debates. He spoke with C-SPAN before the debate. I wonder what he said after the debate. The debate is an educational exercise to learn about the issues and about the candidates, and that's what universities do. He also spoke about the importance of attracting the Commission on Presidential Debates cited Father Jenkins' leadership on civil discourse in electing him to the board of directors in 2011. I mean, that was mild, but here's another one interesting. Decision to cover Notre Dame's Columbus murals stirs debate and disagreement. This was last February of 19. A recent decision by University of Notre Dame President Reverend John Jenkins to cover 135-year-old Christopher Columbus murals on display in the main campus building has elicited both praise and condemnation from students, alumni, and outside observers. Jenkins on January 20th, that's the year that the president is always inaugurated, but I'm sure it was just a coincidence. Anyways, he announced the historic artwork would be covered and a committee established to decide their long-term fate, but that the plan is to create a permanent display for high-quality, high-resolution images of the murals in a campus setting to be determined. The murals painted directly on the walls cannot survive relocation, he stated. The announcement drew praise from a vocal contingent on campus that has long bemoaned the murals and called them a version of a Confederate monument. Wow. And here's how these people act whenever you do something that to please them or appease them. It says, we sincerely hope that Father Jenkins and his administration will continue to prioritize Native issues on our campus in the coming weeks and months as there is still work to be done. What? The group did not respond to a request from the College Fix seeking further comment. A senior Zanabelu of the Pokégon band of the Potawatomi Indians wrote a letter to the editor of the Observer campus newspaper to hail the development, saying she was hurt by the murals as a prospective student and that they only tell one side of the story. And the Observer editorial board celebrated Jenkins' decision as a demonstration of the power of advocacy on campus. Wow, that was a 135-year-old mural painted on the wall. For more than 20 years, groups of motivated students have challenged the university's decision to continue displaying Louis Gregory's murals of Christopher Columbus in the main building. Their work has finally paid off. Their work in what? In covering this beautiful artwork of Louis Gregory that was painted 135 years ago. A PhD student wrote that his decision was not strong enough and that the murals should be permanently removed. Wow. The 12 murals displayed in the same hallway as the admissions office depict Christopher Columbus' journey and arrival to the Americas in 1492. The founder of the university, Father Edward Sorin, commissioned Vatican painter Luigi Gregori 135 years ago. So it wasn't easy. You couldn't just hop on an airplane 135 years ago to create a mural that would inspire, uplift, educate, and be didactically Catholic, according to a university pamphlet. And he wrote, it's not well suited for a thoughtful consideration of these paintings in the context of their composition. Pamphlets exist near the artwork that inform viewers of the context of the mural's creation and certain aspects of the historical background of the depicted events, but some have called them easily overlooked. So that's another radical thing it seems not right. Well, I just discovered this right now. How odd. October 11th of last year. Breaking news, Notre Dame to host 2020 presidential debate. So the first time in history it will host a presidential debate. It will be in Purcell Pavilion. And so that debate that was here in Cleveland was supposed to be there. No shits. Oh my God. Oh. The heart of democracy is addressing significant questions in open, reasoned discussion that will inform voters as they prepare to cast their votes, said John Jenkins. So they withdrew their being the site for the debate in July, late July. Well, he wanted to bring the kids back to school, and he knew it would just be a big clusterfuck with the virus and locally and with the city and all that shit. And he didn't think it was, he put his students first. I think that's great, actually. So I'll give him credit on that. Lou Holtz, when he spoke at the National Republican Convention in August, Notre Dame President Reverend John Jenkins' statement on the remarks of former Irish head coach Lou Holtz at the Republican National Convention this week. While Coach Lou Holtz is a former coach at Notre Dame, his use of the university's name at the Republican National Convention must not be taken to imply that the university endorses his views, any candidate, or any political party. Moreover, we Catholics should remind ourselves that while we may judge the objective moral quality of another's actions, we must never question the sincerity of another's faith, which is due to the mysterious working of grace in that person's heart. In this fractious time, let us remember that our highest calling is to love. Okay, so clarification from USA Today is that when former Notre Dame football coach Lou Holtz called Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden a Catholic in name only during a speech Wednesday night at the convention, he was speaking for himself, not the school, the university president said in a statement on Thursday. Who did he have do his commencement speech as soon as he was inaugurated as president?
President Obama's pending Supreme Court nominee pick will likely bring the issue of abortion, which he has tried to put on the back burner, front and center, and he got a dress rehearsal for this passionate debate over the weekend when he addressed the graduates of Notre Dame University. Notre Dame's decision to give an honorary degree to a president who supports abortion rights enraged many on the Catholic University's campus. President Obama confronted the controversy head-on.
While we know that the views of most Americans on the subject are complex and even contradictory, the fact is that at some level the views of the two camps are irreconcilable.
The camp seemed irreconcilable outside the arena.
And without apology. Abortion is murder! Thou shalt not kill!
But inside, though some empty chairs and graduation caps with baby footprints represented protests, generally the president was warmly received. A small handful of hecklers were drowned out by the crowd chanting, "We are ND, Notre Dame." The president preached common ground.
So let us work together to reduce the number of women seeking abortions. Let's reduce unintended pregnancies. Let's make adoption more available.
Yeah.
Provide care and support for women who do carry their children to term. When we open up our hearts and our minds to those who may not think precisely like we do or believe precisely what we believe, that's when we discover at least the possibility of common ground.
What he means is, he doesn't mean for them to open their minds or hearts to those that oppose them. What he means is that people who oppose them need to fucking get their shit straight. And I know that through their actions. You saw those protesters over there protesting 50 million babies being taken. Their peers that they never met, their siblings that they never met, their unborn children that were taken from them. Okay, there was a handful of them, 5, 10. Look at that. That was mild in comparison to what Obama stirs up. But anyways.
Crowd was respectful.
I know there's a lot of controversial views about what he stands for and everything, but it's also the President of the United States.
But clearly, many disagree.
There was no common ground on slavery, no common ground on the Holocaust, and abortion is one of those issues. There is no common ground.
Originally, President Obama had not planned on discussing this issue at such length, but he decided to seize the opportunity of...
But then he saw all the protesters and he had to run his fucking mouth disrespectfully on a historically Catholic, very prominently Catholic university that does uphold the sanctity of life publicly. So, and by the way, that pastor, that university was very much opposed to him bringing Barack Obama in. He gave him some honorary degree and a commencement speech, and he did the commencement speech upon the graduation. I remember that.
Controversy to talk about common ground. Diane?
Okay, Jake, you mentioned the Supreme Court nomination and the
You
fact
see
that
how
this
serious
issue
Supreme
should be
Court shit
center
is?
when that comes down the pike. When does it come? When do we get the nominee?
Well, we're told not to expect it in the next coming days, although it could happen this week, not likely, but certainly in the next.
It's a big deal. They're crazy. What a coincidence. Hang on.
Weekend started on the campus of Notre Dame with the playing of the blue gold game, but today it was a much different tone at the school as a group of students staged a peaceful protest. Some of the students say they don't agree with Notre Dame's decision to jointly award the Latari Medal next month to Vice President Joe Biden and former House Speaker John Boehner. The students say the vice president's pro-choice stance makes him an inappropriate choice for what is considered the highest honor for an American Catholic. The medal is handed out at commencement. Plus, the bishop of the Fort Wayne South Bend Diocese has already criticized the university for its choice for the medal. Today,
I didn't know it was recording. So and when did he give that? So that ruined it. I spoiled it. I wanted to show you who gave the commencement speech in the year that Donald Trump was running for president. Oh, none against the wishes of the bishop of the city that Notre Dame is located in. Let's finish hearing what she has to say.
weekend started on the Catholic. The medal is handed out at commencement. Plus, the bishop of the Fort Wayne South Bend Diocese has already criticized the university for its choice for the medal. Today, students held a prayer service outside the main building and then moved on to the grotto.
Really, we just need to hold ourselves to a higher standard in who we honor and who we hold up as representatives of the Catholic faith.
We can turn it into something really good to put it out there and tell people this is what's important in our lives.
The president of Notre Dame, Father John Jenkins, recently told the Notre Dame student newspaper, The Observer, that the choice of Biden and Boehner was to honor two Catholic politicians for their years of service to their country as their political careers wind down.
Really? Interesting. It was in the year that President Trump was elected. Okay, good. Hang on. Yeah, so. Oh, that's John Boehner. Let's take a look. Here's who delivered the commencement speech when Donald Trump was when he was basically declared the nominee and was running for president in 2016. This is who gave the commencement speech.
I don't like John Boehner. I love him. Father Jenkins, Notre Dame, thank you. Thank you for this honor, the Latari Medal. I can say without fear of contradiction, it is the most meaningful award I've ever received in my life. And my mother, Catherine Eugenia Finnegan, I wish she were here, but she's looking down to see me receive this. But I must say, Father Jenkins, my grandfather, Ambrose Finnegan, who played for Santa Clara at the turn of the century, was a newspaper man in Scranton, always resented Notre Dame. Because Santa Clara Well, they had a football team, particularly in the teens and 20s and 30s, referred to as the Notre Dame of the West. He said, hell, they're the Santa Clara of the Midwest.
Jeez. And he's swearing at the podium of the commencement speech when the people are protesting his being there. Okay. Oops. Ah. Look at this feigned... I don't even know what you can call that. Hold on.
Grandpa, forgive me. I played football at the University of Delaware in high school, and I finally made it to the 50-yard line to Notre Dame Stadium, man. This is worth the trip, man. You all think I'm kidding. I'm not. Father, you said that politics is a full contact sport. I agree. But Father, to the detriment of the nation in my view, and I think John would agree with me, it has recently become a blood sport, full of invective and ad hominem arguments.
He's already talking crap about Trump.
Time. John and I served together for over 25 years. I've been elected to the Senate 7 times and vice president twice. I've not seen it like this in my career.
That's why we love Donald Trump. You know that? And you thought you could take on Donald Trump, so you had to infect him with the virus. Okay, anyways. Here goes another pretty horrible article I found about him. He did an interview with... Oh, this is the American Spectator? I didn't know that. So he's commenting on... Wow. Jeez, I don't know how I glossed over this. Helping to serve those in greatest need should be a priority for all Catholic institutions because those in greatest need are often powerless to defend themselves. Pedophilia is by definition an abuse inflicted by a person in power over a child. The sexual harassment of students in seminaries hinges on a similarly perverse dynamic. Yet when Father Jenkins spoke about ex-Cardinal Theodore McCarrick, the infamous abuser of children and students, in an exclusive interview with Crux magazine on November 5th, he seemed to abandon his spiritual mandate to defend the innocent and vulnerable. There's a tendency, and I don't think it's a helpful tendency in this kind of situation, to turn the perpetrators into monsters, Jenkins said. The tendency is just to imagine that they are thoroughly corrupt people, but the problem is that it's not true. It's a part of their life. They're not. It's a part of their lives that is deeply problematic, but another part that is not. And that's why it's so hard to identify the problem, and sometimes that person doesn't seem to see the problem. Dissembling about the sexual abuse of children is playing with fire for a college president who was entrusted with the lives of 8,500 undergraduate students. That Father Jenkins and McCarrick both wear a collar further complicates the matter. McCarrick was a prolific Catholic fundraiser and friend of Notre Dame, where he introduced Father Jenkins to the well-heeled and eventually received an honorary degree in 2008. Father Jenkins' personal history with McCarrick and subsequent defense of his behavior raked the clericalism and reflexive loyalty that even the most permissive U.S. bishops have vocally denounced. This might be, he might have brought that virus over there. He might have been blackmailed. That's crazy, but you know what? This ties it all together for me because that's where I want to go right now. Because actually, it might be helpful to look at a different case study to serve as a benchmark for Father Jenkins' behavior. In April 2018, Notre Dame rescinded Bill Cosby's honorary degree after his convictions on 3 felony charges of sexual assault. But Father Jenkins says that he won't rescind Theodore McCarrick's degree until due process has been served, knowing full well that McCarrick will not face criminal proceeding. Even for these concerned with victim rights, this justification must strike up uncomfortable chord. It has become public record that over the years, the Catholic Church has paid multiple settlements to McCarrick's victims, a seemingly decisive admission of guilt. Apparently, Father Jenkins, hanging his reputation as a moral leader on a procedural technicality, Oh, apparently he's hanging his reputation as a moral leader on a procedural technicality. He said that he's waiting for the Vatican to schedule a canonical trial for the 88-year-old serial abuser, but that day may never come, and the sexual abuse of children by McCarrick is a crime much closer to Notre Dame than the egregious wrongdoings perpetrated by Bill Cosby. The Crux interview also exposes Jenkins' orientation as an essentially political rather than moral leader. When asked about his tenure at Notre Dame, he reveals a high note to be President Obama's visit to campus in '09. Then, in the same interview, he refuses to say if President Trump will receive the traditional invitation to speak at commencement before adding, "If you're betting, I'd advise you to bet against it."
University of Notre
Wow,
Dame,
look
we are
what I
honored
just
to welcome
discovered.
the 50th governor of our state and the 48th vice president of the United States, Michael Richard Pence.
He said his name wrong. I just noticed that Michael Pence gave the commencement speech in 2017. He was the governor of Indiana, which is where Notre Dame is located. He's a pretty conservative Christian. Now watch this. Wait. Wasn't the speech for Obama and Biden, wasn't the speech for Obama in a huge auditorium, and then the one for Biden was in a stadium? And look at this one for Pence. What's everybody looking at? Wow. Look at this one. It's in like a little gym. Look at this. This is just deplorable. Wow. This is how this president has been treated the entire time.
Distinguished members of the faculty, my fellow honorees, guests, grandparents, parents, family and friends gathered here, all who've come from near and far to share a special moment. And congratulations to a generation of promise, the University of Notre Dame class of 2017. We are proud of you all.
Aww. Wow. Unbelievable. Back to that article. I just wanted to see if politics has crept in. Back to that article. Politics has crept. Let me see if it's okay. Politics has crept into every component of the Jenkins legacy, and not just his judicial hair splitting between Cosby and McCarrick. Even the Catholic Church's sexual abuse crisis boils down to an issue of demographics. It is a problem that for Father Jenkins can be primarily ascribed to those in their 50s and 60s. It's the older people who have this sort of frustration, a yearning to think, see if we could do it better, get it right this time, Jenkins explains in the Crux article, as though he is describing some midlife crisis rather than an epidemic of child molestation. Younger generations, he says, are seemingly unperturbed and continue to attend Mass regularly on Notre Dame's campus. Yet again, Jenkins is sounding more like a partisan than a priest. Mass isn't a football game where empty seats equal lost revenue or a political rally where polling data is carefully measured. Mass is a place to receive the sacraments and to hear the word of God. Yet in the Crux article, Father Jenkins appears to sow division at every turn, left and right, Obama and Trump, young and old. This wedge splitting is a miscalculation of enormous proportions, especially when it comes to the sexual crimes of ex-Cardinal Theodore McCarrick. Young people today may differ on politics, but they are quite unified on the issue of predatory priests. Yet so you thought, American Spectator. Abusing children and students. Calling evil by its name never occurs to the politically minded Father Jenkins in the Crux article. Not one word is uttered in defense of the victims of sexual abuse by the clergy. Rubbing elbows with rainmakers like McCarrick in the parlors of well-endowed Catholic institutions has apparently obscured his moral compass. What happened to defending those in greatest need? Father Jenkins, it's time to stop playing politics, be a priest. Rescind McCarrick's degree. Wow. Oh, this is the Spectator. Oh my gosh, here's another article I'm just now discovering. Father Jenkins responds to the events in Charlottesville. 3.5 weeks ago, race relations in our country erupted once again. This time, the flashpoints was Charlottesville, VA, the home of Thomas Jefferson's pride and joy, the University of Virginia. In February, the Charlottesville City Council voted to remove a statue of Robert Lee in what was then named Robert Lee Park. From then on, the controversial decision was protested and counter-protested, culminating in a weekend of horrific violence in mid-August, during which 3 people were killed and 34 were injured. Time out. So his response to the riots, that article that I read about him and black people and he's sorry, that was like on June 13th. By this time, every major city in the country had been scorched. Police officers in every city had been injured. Violent protesters had stormed and vandalized and committed arson in every major city across America. And he apologized to black people and said we need to get it together. This one little incident in Charlottesville, which was in my opinion, mostly caused by the same perpetrators who are burning and looting everything right now this year. This The events in Charlottesville, which many believe indicate a significant loss of ground for race relations in the United States, happened to coincide with the 14-day pilgrimage commemorating the 175th anniversary of the University of Notre Dame. The Notre Dame Trail recreated the journey that Father Soren and his companions made by foot in 1842 from Vincennes, Indiana, to the site on which the University of Notre Dame would be built. The trail concluded with a mass in front of Bond Hall on August 28th, during which University President John Jenkins addressed the Charlottesville crisis in light of Father Soren's visions for the University of Notre Dame. Father Jenkins used his homily not only to celebrate the momentous occasion, but also to push back against the viewpoint of one University of Virginia professor in the aftermath of the conflict. Father Jenkins stated, "A faculty member at Virginia wrote that we should not look to universities for moral clarity. Universities exist, argued for epistemic virtues, openness to debate, a commitment to control iniquity, and attention to detail. As valuable as these are, the author argued they are insufficient for responding to the hate that fueled these protests and the violence they engendered. Father Jenkins suggested that while this may be true for many universities, Notre Dame's Catholic mission sets her apart and charges her to be a higher office. He reminded the congregation of Father Soren's vision that this university be one of the most powerful means for good in the country, and urged that in this time she does so by giving witness to a different set of values." A different set of values, huh? He went on to identify exactly what it is that sets the University of Notre Dame apart from other elite institutions and vibrant university communities. The crucial factor, Our Lady. There's something more with Notre Dame, the silent pondering of Mary, or this idol worship, Father Jenkins said. He called to mind the words of Father Corby, who at the time of St. Soren's death attributed everything Notre Dame had become to Our Lady, the dividing force behind Father Soren's life and work. Father Jenkins invited us to embrace her silent, pondering, loving presence, and in that silence to prayerfully ponder the mystery of God's love and what that love demands of each. That's so empty. He condemned racism and hatred as malignancies of the heart, warning that if not rooted out, they will succeed in tearing our community and nation apart. However, he asked that, in the midst of this endeavor, the university continue to be a shining example of respect and brotherhood. We do not effectively counter racism and anti-Semitism by hating the haters or doing violence to the violent. We counter them most in providing an example of a university community where we pursue truth openly, speak freely, and at times disagree passionately, but show respect for those with whom we disagree." So he said, let's call on our idol, Mary, our mother, remembering that she's not my mother, that she's always and forever atop the dome, overseeing all that we do. And he knows that's like nothingness. That means do nothing. Father Jenkins' homily concluded with a final appeal to Father Soren's wish. "Let us ask for God's help to make our university even more a force for good. Let us make it a place worthy to bear the name of Notre Dame, the University Our Lady. Father Soren would have wanted nothing more, nothing less." Whatever, that was stupid. 3 people were killed, 34 were injured. It looked to me like it was a protester trying to get away from the mob. But I don't know, it's just me. What is this? So the September 28th testing update again. A total of 273 COVID-19 tests were administered to Notre Dame football student athletes last week, Tuesday through Sunday. Of those 273, there were 19 positive tests, according to the university physician, Dr. Matt Leisler. Those 18 student athletes are in isolation. Of the 18 who tested positive, 7 were already in quarantine as previously identified close contacts. So this is from September 28th, Tuesday through Sunday. So that means during even when they were at the White House. As of Monday, September 28th, a total of 25 players are currently in isolation with 14 others in quarantine as a result of having been identified as close contacts in consultation with the St. Joseph County Department of Health. The Notre Dame football program has resumed conditioning activities and will continue to adhere to. All right, so that was on the 28th. They were at the White House on the 26th. He attributed his COVID contraction not to the event at the White House, which seems like it would have been a great opportunity for him to talk shit about the president, since he apparently has been holding back because it's clear that he opposes Donald Trump. I'm sorry, just because he doesn't come out openly, which I'm sure he has. Maybe I just haven't found anything. I don't think I specifically looked for him to criticize Donald Trump, but I can assure you that the occasion of catching or contracting coronavirus at the Rose Garden was a great opportunity for him to have a skin in the game reason to criticize President Trump, and he attributes his contracting the virus to a colleague, which he will not name or provide any details of, any further details other than it's from a contact in which he has a close contact. He quarantined himself 2 days after returning from the White House amidst an outbreak that was taking place on the campus when he attended the ceremony, in which he took 18 other students who did not wear masks, in which other people have been known to have contracted the virus, and he refuses to identify these other 18 students or any information regarding them at this time. And the one person who did attend with him was the dean of the students, and that person, out of everybody, had a mask, which is also odd. And he apologized 2 days after returning for not wearing a mask, for all these sins that he had committed, as though he had committed the evil sin, and nobody had even tested positive for the virus at that point in time, linked to the ceremony that took place last Saturday. And I'm sorry, now he's all out here advocating for pedophiles, and it almost seems like he would, as far as his behavior, and who knows, maybe they got dirt on him and they said, look, you're going to the ceremony, and you take some students with you that tested positive so you can spread that virus around over there, or we're gonna give up the goods. Yep, that's what I think. That's my rabbit hole. I don't care. Why was he even at the ceremony to begin with? Because of Amy Barrett? Well, if that's the case, I guess I need to look more into Amy Barrett. Do we really want to be appointing her? Is she really going to be a reliable originalist conservative on the bench? Because, what's this shit say? Oh, okay, that's that testing thing. Here's from the Observer. She represents the worst, the best of Notre Dame from Friday. She's essentially a very intelligent and principled individual. She also strikes great disappointment and shame in me as a Notre Dame student and prospective lawyer. Over the last few days, Notre Dame has been invoked alongside Barrett's name. Her graduation at the top of her class in 97 is used to justify her possible ascendancy to the Supreme Court. The fact that our university's name is being used to legitimize Barrett's nomination strikes me as nothing short of reprehensible. Of course. Notre Dame is a really special place for me. As an institution, Notre Dame and her supporters have aided me as a career and disciplined student. Let me see if this is a girl or a boy. Is it named? It's just a, is it an anonymous letter to the editor? As to me as a, oh my gosh, as an institution, Notre Dame and her supporters have aided me as a queer and displaced student. I have seen what the Notre Dame community embodies, an unyielding effort to spread kindness and uplift human dignity, even across ideological or theological lines. Well, you're not doing that at all. Now our university president is signaling support for Barrett in a way that only denigrates our reputation and our relationship with healthy democracy. I don't think these people even can appreciate that a Supreme Court appointment is almost as high. I would say it's kind of equal to the president. There's only 9. They have more power than the president. They definitely have more power than the legislator. They have unyielding power to be seated. It doesn't matter what if you disagree or if you're on the other side of the aisle. The fact that she's an alumni of Notre Dame, that is a nod to Notre Dame. But this selfish little child, before Trump's presidency, political commentators maintain that our government systems of checks and balances would prevent any real destruction by Trump to political order. This has proved to be patently false. Trump has refused to submit to subpoenas, used the Department of Justice to defend him in personal cases, withheld foreign aid to bribe foreign officials. Really? Because his tax returns that were leaked by the felony act that was committed in leaking his tax returns didn't reveal any of this. He's enabled foreign interference in our elections and generally subverted any attempt to hold him accountable to the laws of our nation. Wow. So what happens with someone like Barrett, the best student, the smartest and most talented person to ever come through the University of Notre Dame Law School, decides to play ball, a woman of 7, decides to play ball with a proto-fascist president? Oh, this is Antifa person. What happens when our nation's best and brightest conservative jurists are complicit in an egregiously hypocritical power grab? Isn't an appointed judge like Barrett herself supposed to be a check on Trump's illiberal regime? Honey, it's called the bicameral system. There is a separation of powers. And what a judge is not supposed to do is legislate from the bench. She's supposed to impartially uphold the law. You might be asking, is this really a power grab, or is Trump just doing his job? The answer, of course, is that Trump and Mitch McConnell know exactly what they're doing. Mitch McConnell doesn't want to do this by rushing Barrett's nomination in the days before the upcoming elections. Republicans know that their chances of retaining their Senate majority are slim to none. This may be their only chance to appoint an originalist judge for decades, and in doing so, they will dramatically alter the composition of our nation's highest court, thereby allowing conservatives to force their conception of the law on no, it's not a conception of the law. Their interpretation is that of the original intent of the people who wrote the law. And it's very simple to judge and to apply the law from the original intent. Any other way would be to pervert the law, but in any case, though. This is likewise a power grab by Trump in the sense that he is hedging his chances of a decision in his favor should a contested election go to the Senate Supreme Court, which, by the way, had he not contracted this virus, there would be no contested election. There would be a pretend contested election. There would be a violent attempted overthrow of the very, very, very obvious results of his victory in the election, but there definitely would not be a legitimately contested election. And people on the Joe Biden side know goddamn well that's the truth. They can deny it in false hope and their hatred for Trump, but they know goddamn well that their chances of winning this election are very low, and that the support for Donald Trump fuels their hatred, and they hate all of us. But in any case, so Notre Dame graduates ought to advance the national good as chosen by the will of the nation. By accepting Trump's nomination. And the nation doesn't get to pick the Supreme Court. The president gets to appoint the Supreme Court, because to have the Supreme Court be elected, or any of these federal judges be elected, it taints their impartiality, and they would be trying to win votes. And that taints their ability to be impartial. But by accepting Trump's nomination at this particular point in time, Barrett is complicit in and even enabling an anti-democratic power grab by Trump. Her actions go against the very core of our duty as graduates of Notre Dame. We ought to uphold certain principles like integrity, justice, and service to society, as Father Jenkins aptly put it. But does a person of integrity snatch power to advance her fringe conception of the law? That's not a fringe conception. That's how it was. It was written for that purpose, to be interpreted in its original state and in its original intent. Do people who believe in justice deliberately undermine the credibility of the judiciary? Well, if it's not credible, then yeah, I would say that they do. In the words of another Notre Dame law professor, the people who serve society spurn the will of the majority of the American people to delay this appointment until after the election. The Supreme Court isn't there to serve the society. They are there to uphold the law. They are there to judge the law impartial and actually and judge to rule by the law. If you, like me, believe that a highly intelligent, principled, and immensely fair Notre Dame graduate and professor should serve at our nation's highest court, then Amy Coney Barrett at this juncture in time is not that person. Amy Coney Barrett represents a reprehensible alliance with Trump and a disdain for American democracy. In short, she represents the worst of Notre Dame. Oh, David Phillips, Sr. See how a man is tearing down a woman? It's okay because he's gay, so what? Does that make him... That makes it okay? No, it doesn't. It does not. David Phillips, you're claiming to aspire to attend law school when you have no intention on doing so. It clearly shows that you have no concept of what her position as a Supreme Court justice is. You're ignorant of the facts. Snatch power to advance her fringe conception of the law? Deliberately undermine the credibility of the judiciary? If the judiciary is corrupt, then yes, it's their responsibility to do so. But these are college students, and here's another article from that Observer. Amy Coney Barrett is no RBG. This was on October 2nd. Oh. When you grow up as a girl, it is like there are faint chalk lines traced approximately 3 inches around your entire body at all times, drawn by society and often religion and family, and particularly other women like you who somehow feel invested in how you behave. And I sure hope that you're drawing the distinction. Well, then in that case, you would be drawing the distinction between Barrett and RBG, as Barrett is dedicated to upholding the law, and that she will be... Okay, being a woman presents numerous challenges, some of which have resisted decades of activism and societal cultural evolution. One thing I recently learned is that men are not the only ones to blame. Astonishingly, yes, women too can stand opposed to feminism and inequality. Oh, okay, I see where this is going. Even if this opposition manifests itself implicitly, ever since it was announced that Judge Amy Coney Barrett was nominated to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the U.S. Supreme Court, a plethora of opinions have been shared through columns, interviews, posts, and tweets. I was sifting through some of those, researching facts and trying to form an opinion on this novel news. A tweet that particularly struck me was one posted by not Ahern. It went like this. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is going to be replaced by a woman who walked through every door that Ginsburg opened for her so she can promptly use her position to shut them all for others behind her. Well, I can understand that sounds like a witty tweet, and I can appreciate the doors that RBG did open. That you cannot take away from her. But to say that Amy Coney Barrett would shut those doors is, there's no conscience, it's actually, it's a false statement. You can't even make that, oh my gosh. Projection. Headlines by nationwide renowned publications condemned Barrett's nomination. New York Times, is New York Times your authority? Published an opinion piece entitled Amy Barrett is no RBG. Robin Javan with the Washington Post went even further, saying that Washington Post, even better. Amy Barrett, Trump's nominee, elects RBG's gravitas. Well, maybe that's a good thing. She hasn't been seated yet for anybody to judge her yet. Headlines condemn this nomination as an affront, bad for women, and even terrible for RBG's legacy. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a canny, forward-thinking, quiet as a mouse, and audacious feminist, undoubtedly left behind a penchant legacy, despite the fact that her education and fragments of her career bore the effects of culturally dominated and enshrined discrimination of her times. Ginsburg reimagined the world for us. Her efforts were in principle directed toward establishing equality between men and women, particularly before the law. In 1970s, okay, this girl does want to be a lawyer, a co-founder of the ACLU Women's Rights Project, she argued 6 sex discrimination cases before the U.S. Supreme Court and won 5. She sought to invalidate laws that barred men from taking advantage of certain benefits, driving home the point to an all-male court that unequal treatment hurts everyone equally. Unfortunately, it seems that Barrett is nestled amongst the conservative bloc that oppose RBG. I do recognize Barrett's impeccable intellectual and professional credentials, yet her record as a judge stands in stark contrast to Ginsburg's. In Trump's nominee is no RGB. Give him rights. In her remarks, Barrett paid tribute to the late Justice Antonin Scalia, for whom she clerked. That right there, I did not know that she clerked for him, and that right there, I'm sold. That is the best judge that ever existed in my lifetime. I love Antonin Scalia. She honored Ginsburg, too. Then she talked about her passion for mothering and driving the carpool and planning birthday parties, and certainly if her rough sketch of her home life is accurate, she's a lovely neighbor and attentive mom, but she has not been nominated to the school board. Barrett has written that abortion is always immoral and joined 2 dissents against decisions supporting the right to choose. One decision stopped the enforcement of a state law that would have required a minor, regardless of her maturity or family situation, to notify her parents of her decision to have an abortion, giving them veto power unless a judge found this was not in her best interest. Okay, every state has that, and I agree with that 100%. That's why my son was born when I was 14. Okay, because I didn't want to ask my parents. I was too scared. And that judge did not give me the right to have that abortion without my parents' permission. And my son is alive for that. He's 22 years old. I gave him up for adoption. Many believe that Barrett will oppose Roe v. Wade, a landmark legal decision issued on January 22nd, 1973. Yes, 47 years ago, in which the Supreme Court effectively legalized the procedure across the U.S. Roe was decided on the right to privacy, a right that reaches far beyond access to abortion. Privacy is fundamental to a notion of conscious and to bodily autonomy. No. You guys are making it about abortion, okay? Privacy is in the 4th Amendment. So it is a connective tissue linking voting rights to health care. What the fuck? Disability rights, reproductive justice, and protection from discrimination in employment and housing. RBG knew that reproductive rights are pivotal to equal protection before the law for women. Barrett's anti-feminism is about more than abortion rights. Yes, throwing abortion back into the hands of individual states will compound the lack of access to health care that poor women and disproportionately women of color routinely face, along with creating a myriad of legal recognition issues. But most importantly, As Lee Gilmore writes for WBUR, replacing Ruth Bader Ginsburg with a woman who is an anti-feminist is just as cynical as replacing civil rights titan Thurgood Marshall, was he really a civil rights titan, with Clarence Thomas, a black nominee who was avowedly hostile to affirmative action. And that was a good thing, because the affirmative action hurt the black community. It is no secret that the next justice appointed to U.S. will drastically affect women's fundamental rights, including the right to control their own bodies and the access to affordable health care. Women who use their power to harm other women by reducing their rights, well, if women who cannot think outside of their uterus are so compelled to discredit a woman who clerked for Justice Antonin Scalia, a mother of 7, who is vowing to be an originalist and uphold the law as the founders intended, then I think that you guys are the ones with the mental deficiency, and that you guys actually, I mean, to make it all about this privacy issue, the Fourth Amendment. What do we need beyond the Fourth Amendment? So she's a sophomore at Notre Dame, majoring in business and analytics. Wow. Well, she's very well. She can write very good, and I really did believe that this girl was in law school, trying to obtain her law degree. So that was a very well written article. I disagree with her, but it's not fundamentally wrong like the previous article was. It wasn't diabolically incorrect and inaccurate in its assertions. This one was actually written, and I just happen to disagree with her assertions. And I think this girl has a very great skill of writing. She's almost convinces me that she feels very strongly, and that her opinions are rooted in something more than just platitudes and generalizations. And then, even though she cites a New York Times article and a Washington Post article, but whatever, she's just affirming the positions of the authors. And so, in any case, though, now this is completely just me venting, talking, and just making myself feel better because I'm freaking out about the president, and I'm really hoping he's going to be okay. But I really feel like somebody did this to him, and I don't know why that man Jenkins was at that nomination, and why he had to bring his little entourage of little coronavirus students and faculty. I mean, when there's a major outbreak, and this is the number one, I mean, this is like news. It's in Sports Illustrated. It was on ESPN. I guess it's been all over the sports world news about how horrible Notre Dame has done because of this COVID outbreak on their football team. And on the day, and this is transpiring, and he attended this, and then they didn't wear their masks. And then he's trying to change his alibi, and he's actually confessing and asking for forgiveness before even testing positive. I mean, the whole thing is really, and they won't disclose any information about who went or any of that. This is off. All of that is wrong. Even if there's not some kind of rabbit hole or black pill or whatever the fuck color pill it is, I like orange pills. In any case, though, even if it's none of that, it almost seems like he's sorry for what. Maybe he shouldn't have went, and he knew that, and he did anyways. Maybe he knew attending that event was risky, but he had to attend anyways. Maybe he knew he had corona, but he took these other people so that maybe one of them could look like they're the ones who had the corona. I mean, it really does seem like he had an admission of guilt before he was ever even tested positive, and this was directly, and he was apologizing to the students, though, not even to the President of the United States or to the Supreme Court nominee or to the senators who have contracted the virus. He's apologizing to the students when his apology is actually he should be apologizing to everybody that was at that, everybody that attended that ceremony, because he had no business being there, flat out, period.